We spend so much of our lives chasing an illusion called perfection. We try to say the right thing, wear the right mask, post the right version of ourselves. Like there's some invisible checklist for being enough. But deep down, we all know the truth. Perfection doesn't move us. It doesn't stir our souls or make our hearts skip a beat. What really draws us in is something far more powerful, honestly. Think about it. When someone shares their struggles without sugarcoating them, when they let you see their doubt, their chaos, their heartache, don't you lean in closer? Don't you feel seen, like maybe you're not the only one figuring it out as you go? That's the kind of courage that doesn't come with applause but with connection, because when someone dares to be real in a world that rewards pretending, it gives the rest of us permission to breathe a little easier, to be a little braver with our own stories. Perfection is often polished silence, but realness, it's messy, it's raw, and it speaks in a language that everyone understands. It says, you don't have to have it all together to be worthy. And that message in a society built on appearances is a rebellion in itself. Being imperfectly real isn't about broadcasting your every flaw. It's about choosing truth over performance. It's trusting that your broken parts aren't barriers, they're bridges. They connect you to other people's hearts in ways that flawless never could. So don't wait to be perfect to show up. Don't wait to be polished to be powerful. Let your realness rise to the surface, because in that space of imperfection, something extraordinary happens. People don't just hear you, they feel you. And that feeling, that's where the magic lives. There's a kind of bravery that often goes unnoticed. It doesn't show up in spotlights or red carpets. It shows up in the quiet decision to be seen, fully, honestly, without the armor. That's what it means to be imperfectly real. And that kind of vulnerability, that's not weakness. That's the highest form of courage. We're taught to be strong, to be composed, to be in control. But somewhere along the way, we started mistaking perfection for strength. And that's where we lose ourselves. Because true strength isn't about pretending everything's okay. It's about standing in the middle of the storm and saying, here I am, flaws and all, and I'm not hiding. It's easy to be confident when everything's going right, when the world applauds you. But real confidence, the kind that doesn't crumble, is built when you show up on the hard days, when your voice shakes, but you speak anyway, when you fall and still choose to rise without needing to cover up the bruises. That kind of presence, it's magnetic, because it reminds people they're allowed to be human too. When you drop the mask and let people see the imperfect parts of you, you're not just being authentic, you're being revolutionary. You're rewriting the rules. You're saying, I don't need to be perfect to take up space in this world. And that message has the power to shift perspectives, to heal hearts, to inspire action. So if you're scared, if you're unsure, if you feel like you're not enough yet, good. That means you're alive, that means you're honest, and that means you're already braver than most. Because showing up as your imperfect self isn't just an act of self-love, it's a bold declaration to the world. I am real, and that is more than enough. There's something undeniably magnetic about people who aren't afraid to be themselves. You feel it when they walk into a room, not because they're the loudest or the most polished, but because they carry a kind of freedom the rest of us secretly crave. They're not performing, they're not trying to impress, they're just real. And in a world that often rewards perfection over presence, that kind of authenticity is not just rare, it's unforgettable. We've all met those people, the ones who don't hide their quirks, who laugh at the wrong moments, who speak their truth even when it's messy, and maybe they don't blend in, maybe they don't follow the script, but they leave something behind long after they've gone. Because when someone is brave enough to be fully themselves, they give us something we didn't know we needed: permission. Permission to exhale, to let go of the act, to be seen. The irony is that we spend so much energy trying to fit in, thinking that's how we'll be accepted. But fitting in isn't the same as belonging. Fitting in is about changing who you are to be liked. Belonging is about showing up as you are and being loved because of it. And the only way to truly belong in this world is to be real. When you choose to be imperfectly real, you become a mirror. You reflect back to others what they're too afraid to embrace in themselves. And that kind of reflection, it doesn't just inspire, it awakens, it stirs something deeper than admiration, it builds connection. And long after perfection has faded into forgettable highlights, realness is what people carry in their hearts. So if you're worried that being yourself won't be enough, think again, because being real might not always be the most comfortable path, but it is the most powerful one. And in a world that forgets faces and follows trends, being unapologetically you is the kind of rare that people never forget. There's something deeply powerful about a person who owns their truth. Not the polished version, not the rehearsed lines, but the raw, honest, beautiful mess of who they are. Your truth, your voice, your story, your way of being isn't something to be edited down or tucked away. It's not something you have to fix to be worthy. It is your power. We live in a world that tries to convince us to shrink, to tone ourselves down, to dim our brilliance, to become palatable. But you weren't made to fit into someone else's mold. You were made to stand out with all your colors, all your contradictions, all your complexities. And when you finally stop apologizing for who you are, something extraordinary happens. Your presence becomes undeniable. It's easy to believe that we have to be someone else to matter, that if we were just a little more like her or a little less like ourselves, maybe then we'd be enough. But the truth is, the moment you start living someone else's version of your life, you lose the magic of your own. And the world doesn't need more copies, it needs originals. It needs the exact rhythm of your laugh, the depth of your scars, the questions only you ask, the light only you bring. There is no one else who can tell your story the way you can. No one who can carry your experiences, your heart, your lessons, your dreams. And trying to erase your imperfections or silence your voice is like painting over a masterpiece because you think it's too bold. Don't do that. Don't water yourself down to fit in someone else's glass. When you speak from your truth, you don't have to be the loudest in the room to be heard. You don't have to have it all figured out to be respected. You just have to be honest. Because there's something deeply human and wildly beautiful about someone who is willing to be seen, not just in their strength, but in their becoming. Your truth may not be perfect, it may be messy and complicated, but it's real. And in a world full of masks, being real is what makes you rare. And rare, that's where power lives. There's a kind of magic that happens when you stop pretending and start showing up as you truly are. It's subtle at first. The tension in your shoulders softens, the pressure to perform begins to lift, and something deeper takes its place. Connection. Real heart to heart connection that can be manufactured with perfection but is instantly sparked by authenticity. Vulnerability isn't weakness, it's honesty in its rawest, most courageous form. And when you allow yourself to be vulnerable, not polished, not perfect, you become a mirror for others. You become the proof that it's okay to not have it all together. You remind people that we don't connect through flawless highlight reels. We connect through the shared human experience of falling, rising, learning, breaking. We spend so much of our lives building walls to protect ourselves from judgment. We put on masks because we think we have to impress, because we're scared to be seen in our realness. But those walls don't just keep others out, they keep us from being truly known. And deep down, we're all craving the same thing: to be understood, to be accepted, to be loved for who we are, not who we pretend to be. When you allow people to see the unfiltered version of you, the one that sometimes doubts, the one that's still figuring it out, you don't push them away, you invite them in. Because vulnerability whispers, "You're not alone." And that whisper is what so many are desperate to hear. Realness builds bridges where perfection builds distance. So let them see the real you. Let them hear the quiver in your voice, the truth in your eyes, the story behind your smile. Because when you show your soul instead of your script, you don't just speak, you connect. And connection, that's where transformation begins. That's where healing happens. That's where we remember that being human is not about being flawless, it's about being felt. There comes a point in life when you realize that trying to fit in is the fastest way to lose yourself. We bend, we mold, we shrink to fit into boxes we were never meant for. We edit our personalities, we censor our dreams, we silence our voices, all just to be accepted, liked, validated. But here's the truth that no one tells you soon enough. Fitting in might make you feel safe, but it will never make you feel seen. The world is overflowing with people trying to be replicas of what they think they should be. But the real power, the kind that moves mountains and opens hearts, lives in those who dare to be different, in those who stand in their own skin and say, "This is who I am." Not perfect, not always polished, but true. And that kind of self-ownership, that's where your real worth begins to shine. When you choose to belong to yourself first, to your values, your quirks, your contradictions, you stop chasing approval and start leading from authenticity. You stop worrying about whether people will like you and start asking whether they truly know you. And the irony, the moment you stop trying to belong everywhere is the moment you start belonging somewhere real. There's a wild freedom in choosing to be unapologetically you. It's not about rebellion for the sake of being different. It's about integrity. It's about saying, "I won't abandon myself just to be accepted by someone else." That choice, that fierce loyalty to your own spirit, isn't common. It's rare and it's powerful. What if the very things you've been trying to hide, your flaws, your cracks, your so-called imperfections, are actually your fingerprints? What if the parts you've labeled as too much or not enough are the exact things that make you unforgettable? You see, we've been conditioned to believe that we have to fix ourselves to be worthy, but the truth is we were never meant to be flawless. We were meant to be real. Imperfection is not only impossible, it's uninspiring. It's a surface level performance that lacks depth. But your imperfections, they carry stories, they carry lessons, they carry your humanity. And it's through those very cracks that your light leaks out, the light that reaches others, that reminds them they're not alone in their struggles, their questions, their becoming. Every scar you carry is evidence of a battle you survived. Every insecurity you've wrestled with has shaped your empathy. Every mistake you've made has added a layer to your wisdom. These aren't things to erase, they're things to embrace, because they're the threads that weave the fabric of who you are. And that fabric, it's one of a kind. When you stop trying to present a perfect version of yourself to the world, you give others a gift, the permission to do the same. You become a space where people feel safe to show up as themselves. And that's where real connection begins. That's where real impact lives. Because when you stand in your truth, flawed and radiant, you don't just exist, you resonate. So instead of aiming for perfection, aim for presence, aim for truth. Let the world see the real you, the one who's learning, stumbling, growing, healing, the one who isn't afraid to be seen in the middle of the mess. That version of you, it's not broken, it's brilliant, it's rare. And the most powerful thing you can do in this lifetime is to wear your imperfections like a signature, not a stain. Because being imperfectly real isn't a limitation, it's your superpower. As we stand at the crossroads of the world's expectations and our own truth, it's time to ask ourselves, what kind of life do we really want to live? A life of imitation, of striving for a perfection that never truly satisfies? Or a life that embraces the beauty of imperfection, of realness, of vulnerability, where we allow ourselves to be human, messy, and full of heart? The world may tell us to be perfect, to hide our flaws, to present only the best versions of ourselves, but deep down we know that perfection is a trap. It's a false promise that leaves us empty, disconnected from the very people we want to inspire. Real, authentic lives, lives that are imperfectly real, are what leave the deepest impressions. They're the ones that spark connection, that ignite change, that make others feel like they're not alone in their struggle. When you choose to be yourself, flawed, uncertain, imperfect, you give the world the rarest gift of all, the permission to do the same. And in that act of being real, you open the door to profound connection, genuine love, and an unwavering sense of purpose. You don't have to be perfect to matter. You don't have to be flawless to lead. What the world needs is you, exactly as you are. So be courageous enough to show up as your true imperfect self. Let the world see your scars, your insecurities, your rawness, because in that authenticity lies your power, and in your uniqueness lies your greatness. You're not meant to fit into a mold. You're meant to shatter it. Remember, the rarest things in life are the ones that are real. And you are perfectly rare. So step into the world with all your imperfections, because it's in that imperfection that your true beauty, strength, and brilliance shine.